Hi, welcome to your pre-assessment for forestry machine operators base machine. My name's Sarah Chapman, I'm from MJ Woodland Services, and this is a series of videos to help you pass your MPTC forestry machine operators base machine assessment. To do that today, I'm joined by Michael Crutchley here.
Hi.
From MJ Woodland Services. He's an accredited Lantra training provider and an accredited MPTC FMO assessor. Plus, he's active in the job as a forestry contractor for over 20 years, so he's very experienced and he'll be sharing his knowledge today with us. These videos wouldn't be possible without the support from an innovative training scheme called Forestry Focused Future. Plus, Callum Campbell of Forestry Services Limited from Mahuncleth has allowed us to use his Ponce today and his site. These videos are not a replacement for formal training. They're here to guide you and assist you to pass your assessment, but formal training should always be sought first. Right, so we're going to move on to health and safety legislation. This is the rules governing working on site, and this is what you need to know for your assessment. So Mike, the first one is the Health and Safety at Work Act. So how is that affecting us?
Health and Safety at Work Act, huge great document. The only bit you really need to know is whose safety you're responsible for. And the safety you're responsible for is your own and of anybody around you, work colleagues, members of the public. And then on top of that, your employer needs to provide you with a safe place of work, give you all your PPE, all your training, etc.
So another set of regulations that affect us in the workplace is PURE. So can you explain what that stands for?
Certainly. PURE stands for Provision and Use of Work Equipment Regulations, PUWER, and they are that machinery you're going to be using is to be fit for the purpose it's going to be. So if it's a forwarder, it was actually designed and built as a forwarder. It's actually fit for use in the fact it is maintained and looked after, and safe in its use. And you, the operator, you need to be actually trained and ideally competent in its use.
RIDDOR is a set of regulations that we have to adhere to on site. So what does RIDDOR stand for?
RIDDOR, let me just put my teeth in, but it's Reporting of Injuries, Diseases, Dangerous Occurrences, Regulations. Principally, as an operator, what you need to consider is if you have an accident at work, that actually has to be recorded in the accident book. If it's anything a little bit more serious, you've got to have more than 7 days off work, or you've lost a limb or other notifiable injuries or diseases, you then have to make a RIDDOR report to the Health and Safety Executive.
So COSH is yet again, we've got another set of regulations. So what does COSH stand for?
COSH, C-O-S-H-H, is Control of Substances Hazardous to Health, which in this instance, we've got oils and greases and fuels and other substances. Where they're involved, you have to consider the PPE, whether that be your gloves, face masks, eye protection, and then the materials you're keeping on site have got to be in the approved containers, capable of storing those liquids or substances. And most importantly, what's written on the outside of the box is what's actually on the inside of the box. And then you've got to consider about the correct disposal of such substances, whether that be licensed disposal or recycling.
And finally, we've got all our regulations, but good practice is really important. So where can we go for advice on for good practice and how we should be operating?
First source is FISA website.
What is FISA?
Forest Industry Safety Accord. They have a whole load of training guides, which we've mentioned as we're going through this video so far.
So FISA, is it free? Are the guides free?
Yeah, the guides are free to download off the website.
And FISA is F-I-S-A?
F-I-S-A, yes. And you want FISA UK because it is something to do with the Americans as well.
Okay, so FISA UK, and that's where we can get all our safety guides in relation to forestry.
Yes.
Where else might we go for advice?
You could ask the guy down the pub, but you probably get it wrong. So better is the manual that came with the machine. So the operator's manual will give you good advice on how to operate and look after the machine.
Now, are there any other guidelines available?
Health and Safety actually produce their own guides as well, which you might look at. They're sort of in conjunction with the FISA ones. And then there is actually, if we're working near water and the environment, there are various environmental guidelines as well on diffuse pollution and working near watercourses.
So keeping with our health and safety legislation, what records And paperwork, do we have to keep? There's never not any paperwork, so what do we got to keep?
Under the provision use of work equipment regulations pure, a logbook needs to be kept with the machine, saying when it was serviced, any recalls or anything like that, it's all been adhered to by the manufacturer or the dealer. Then also on a daily basis, the operator themselves have got to keep a logbook to say they've checked that machine that day, and in that they record any faults or things that happen to it, or if it's in perfectly good order, they tick it's in perfectly good order.
So really, good practice would denote that you should have default check sheets like you do with, say, your HGVs when driving a lorry. You could have a standard sheet that you check each day. That would be really good practice. But if you're owner operator of a machine, and just keeping even in a notebook just would be sufficient enough for keeping a log.
Ideally, yeah, you have the all singing, all dancing, but you need to prove that the machine has actually been properly checked and is fit for purpose.
Okay, so you could also refer to your machine's maintenance logbook as well, such as this is one for the Ponzi, to make sure it's stamped and kept up to scratch, and have a maintenance schedule.
Yeah, because if anything were to happen, the first thing any investigator is going to see was that machine in good working order.
Right, so we're getting towards the end of our health and safety legislation, and part of that, being good operators, is thinking about the wider environment around you. So what damage could we cause to the environment through our forestry operations?
Well, if you're not careful, we can spill substances, such as oils and fuels. So, that can be, the machine could be defective, or we've just been a bit careless when we're refueling or replenishing. If we're driving inappropriately, so we're causing rutting or brown water runoff, those sort of things, yes.
And how can we minimise those risks?
Well, using bunded containers, refueling hoses, making sure the machine is in good order so it's not actually leaking all the time. Take spill kits, so if we do spill we can mop it up. And then putting in place measures to stop diffuse pollution, such as the netlon in the drains, or putting sumps in to catch mud. Also, just being careful when driving, we don't actually create more ruts than we need to.
So drive carefully on site. Plan where your work is, where you're going to come in and out of the site to minimise your environmental.
Yes, try and keep away
damage.
from water courses. Make sure no brown water's running into the water courses, and likewise that fuels and oils are stored well away from the water courses. And please don't refuel in the river.
And what about the disposal of waste?
It's collected in appropriate containers marked as waste containers, and those containers are taken off site and dealt with appropriately.
And if you were following the chain through, the waste disposal person should be registered to dispose.
Yeah, you need
of
a proper registered waste disposal, and keep a receipt to say you have actually done it correctly, because you never know.
You never know. Okay, so we've covered lots of points that you will need to show your knowledge of and demonstrate for your base machine. That's your FMO base machine assessment. And we've done it on a wheeled articulated machine, and we have covered the different points if you are using a rigid base machine. So hopefully this will help you pass your MPTC FMO base machine assessment. As I said, this is a guide to give you some tips. It's no replacement for getting some formal training. And most importantly, read your MPTC FMO qualification guidance, which should be given to you before your assessment by the company that's registered the assessments for you. We wish you the best of luck. Other guides to look at are the FISA guides again, which we've mentioned previously. So thanks, Mike, for your expert knowledge today.
It's been a pleasure.
If you have any questions, as I say, ask your training provider, or you can always contact us, and we're the MJ Woodland Services.